Man, I tell you, the world of HR tech is moving at lightning speed. And that's because we've got so many entrepreneurs, we've got AI, we've just got these brilliant ideas that are coming on the scene. And we're going to Texas today. Raylene, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Tony. How are you?
Well, I'm doing a little better than you, I think, because your office is getting renovated and they said they relegated you to your home office. Is that what they did? They said,
I could come in and listen to the power tools and have no online access, or I could work remotely. But you know what?
you
We
thought,
can do
let's
that
just,
now, so it's fine.
let's just keep this train rolling.
hmm
We had this thing scheduled months out. We're very busy people, so there's no way we were going to allow that to get in our way. Well, I'm super thrilled to have you down. Like I said at the top, there's so much happening right now, with talent trying to provide solutions, trying to help staffing companies, HR professionals, and let's throw you into the mix now because now you've got something that you're working on with Talent Edge. So what is it this? Well, wait, before we even get into that, why did you pick staffing? Well, AI can be used in lots of different, industries and
Um,
such. Why us?
I love the staffing industry. I've grown up in it. So although I've dabbled in management consulting and been in other aspects of solutions delivery, I have spent the majority of my career in the staffing industry. And it's my favorite place to be because we support and enable and drive the success in every other industry. No industry succeeds without the right workforce, and we're the ones who power that. So there was nowhere else for me to consider going.
Awesome. Awesome. I know for a lot of us that ended up in the industry, it wasn't like we decided, hey, I want to go into staffing or I want to go into executive search. You've got a certain kind of personality, a certain style, a certain, well, they're called A-type personalities. We tend to be attracted to this industry. So I was just kind of
So
curious
you
what
weren't 6 years old and watching astronauts take off and desperate to be a recruiter?
I wanted to be an oceanographer. I was like into like
Oh,
Jacques Cousteau. I loved all the, underwater explorations,
I
but
took an elective in oceanography, but I still ended up in staffing. So maybe that's the career path.
you did. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's something about that underwater, and now we've got space with Elon Musk, so we've got all these great things that are
Don't
happening.
go political on me, man.
We're not going to go political. We're not going to go political, but I do want to know what so I need to understand because I've been on the website. What is it that Talent AI or Talent Edge AI is solving for? What's the issue out there that companies and HR is having?
Yeah. So you said HR tech, and I think that staffing and hiring technology is a subset of HR tech. I'm specifically looking to solve key problems for small and mid-sized staffing companies. It is a longer hiring cycle today. The economy has shifted in ways that smaller staffing companies struggle to manage their operating expenses and maintain and retain their high top talent. So for us, by enabling them to have overarching insight into supply and demand and compensation across various markets they could be sourcing out of to be able to see what that compensation or market demand is going to do over the course of the next couple quarters helps them to strategically source in the right places that will maximize profitability. So if they're working within a bill rate, they can look to find lower cost markets that will drive a more efficient pay rate for them, increasing their actual markup in the margin, right? So the other thing is being able to tap a button and get that AI sourcing. You said it, there's a ton of tools out there. The problem is most AI sourcing tools just source candidates. We are combining that with the market insights and we're sourcing not just from LinkedIn, but from every public profile that's available to us. And then we're allowing recruiters to take those sourced candidates and run them through an AI interview tool so they can screen them. That means that sourcing and screening, which is normally 70% of the hiring process for a staffing company,
Yeah.
is done in minutes instead of days or hours, depending on the role. And you don't have to manually reach out to every candidate and tap into them. The tool helps to do that for you. So we increase your margin, we reduce your cost per hire, which helps with your OPEX, and we increase your speed to revenue. Those are the key pain points from every staffing executive that I've spoken to since COVID started. And those are the things that we're looking to solve.
Well, that's interesting because if you have an open requisition and let's say the person can be remote or they'll relocate them from anywhere, then now you have an opportunity to source, one particular skill set anywhere in the country. So wouldn't you as a hiring leader or a recruiter want to know, okay, this talent band, this is where it's located across the country. Here are the demographics and some of the compensation information around it. Like you may not realize, hey, there's a certain city or town that's got a lot of pressure on
Yep.
this particular skill set. And if you go in there and you spend all your time trying to recruit this person out of, say, Dallas, you would have been maybe better off going to Oklahoma, where there wasn't as much pressure. You think of like fishing, if everyone's fishing the same spot,
Yep.
it puts the salary, what happens with these candidates, the amount of money they want goes up. Every time a recruiter calls them,
And that's the problem.
it, I think it's true. It goes to their head. They go, oh, wow, I've got all these options. Maybe I'll
Well,
add
we're seeing
10
a
grand.
phenomenon now. We're seeing a phenomenon now with compensation because a lot of your industrial skills, a lot of your light industrial roles or your blue collar work, those roles are seeing increases in compensation because the market has shifted to such a degree. But in a lot of the professional roles, some people got very comfortable staying with the same company and just progressing up the chain and frankly getting premium salaries. So when they transition to their next executive job, they got another bump, they got more equity. That is the part that we're starting to see shift now. People are talking about, the pending recession. They're talking about the job shortages, the candidate struggles. It's because there's a misaligned expectations around compensation. And we hope to solve for part of that. We make this information available to candidates, but more importantly, a recruiter can have at their fingertips the answers when a candidate says, no, I want to make X. And they can say, well, there's 75 jobs open in the market right now, including the one I'm offering you. And here's what they're each paying. And they can walk them through it and actually say, this is the competitive rate. You're not going to find better.
Right. Or on the flip side, you're asking too much. You need to understand. I mean, I have the data to prove it. I'm not just
Exactly.
trying to artificially keep you low. All right. Well, we've jumped into a lot of things there. So let me try to break it down so I can better understand it. When I think about staffing, I think about the contingent workforce, the hourly worker that gets put to work, and there's a markup. And you mentioned that, right? So someone's being paid 15 an hour, they go to work, they make 30, whatever it is, that's 100% markup. You've got your margins in there. But then you've got the higher level independent contractors, the professional contractors that are much higher level than that. Okay, then you got the third category, and that's all your direct hires. People who are always they're going to go from a permanent position to a permanent position, right? They're never going to be that 6 month, maybe I have my job, maybe I don't. When
Right.
you created this new model with all the data, where did you put the emphasis? Which of those buckets? And when you're now going to market, which of those do you lead with when you talk to a company?
It depends on the company. The tool is designed to pull all of the workforce data that's available in the public domain on social and professional profiles. Most candidates don't put that they're a contractor. Some do, right?
Hmm.
If you look at their GitHub or their Stack Overflow or LinkedIn, they'll specify that they're on contract at X company. But for the most part, they're not doing that. So you can't always distinguish on the candidate side who is or is not a contingent worker. From a recruiting standpoint, most companies lean towards one or the other. There are only a small percentage that equally serve direct hire and temporary labor. So, depending on who the sales team is talking to, they're going to use specific examples and search terms and speak to the ROI that's unique or most relevant to their business. It serves both equally.
I
The
see.
distinction being if information is not available in a public profile, we can't fabricate it. So,
Right.
you do have to do some digging to that degree.
Well, to your point, this is a back end solution where all the public information is being looked at and distilled on a dashboard, and you, the salesperson, or you, the HR person, you just use the information however you see fit. I mean, it's apparently it's for the entire marketplace, if that's what I'm hearing.
It is. I mean, and it's global, right? So for me, my background isn't just in staffing, but it's in global market intelligence. And every year we had to do global RFPs looking for comprehensive global data. There was never one single source of truth. We were always using multiple platforms, multiple data sets. So my goal with Talent Edge was to answer all of those questions in one place, which really does streamline the process and reduce the need for manual analysis in any company. Now, I'm not saying that every client we have needs all of the markets, but earlier today I was on the phone with a client in the GCC, and while they predominantly focus on the GCC markets in Saudi Arabia and UAE, et cetera, they also do work in Africa. They also do work in other parts of the Middle East. And so being able to see beyond their region and tell a client, well, we know you want to put this role in Kenya and you want to expand your work there, but if you do that, you're going to have to change the requirements because you want 15 years experience and the average life expectancy there is only 30. So 15 years experience is not common in this area. And if that's what you need, we need to look elsewhere. And here's the information to support your decision.
You know, it occurs to me now with this is not a political comment, but with the
You
tariffs
can go
happening.
there.
Well, my point is, no. You just brought an excellent point up, and we struggle with this with our clients because so many of our new clients, they're actually moving to America.
Yep.
And when they come here, they're obviously looking for tax breaks and, where can they get the best deal, long term with tax incentives. Obviously, they have to have a land requirement and there's other requirements that they look at. But what happens is they have to have some kind of real HR intelligence about the marketplace, right? And it sounds like this is really a great tool for, let's say, we work with a lot of companies from South Korea. So these Korean companies, they move over. This would be a great tool for them to understand. If you plunk this thing down, this business down, which is engineering heavy in this rural area, which maybe is common sense.
Mhm.
In Alabama, you're not gonna. There's no talent there, right? That's
We
what this
we
tool
just
shows
we
them. This right. Here are the talent bands. Here's what they make.
We just had this conversation yesterday. I was talking with an engineer who does a lot of that location strategy work. Our organization obviously supports the workforce analysis and insight, but the engineering aspect is looking more at the infrastructure and the energy readiness, et cetera. So you brought up you brought up Elon Musk before. So I used Tesla going into Reno to do their battery plant years ago. There was a great market based on all of the engineering and logistical data, but the workforce that they needed for that plant did not exist there. And it becomes a cost to fabricate and reverse engineer that capability in a market. And it's one example of thousands, right? So that's
Right.
why workforce needs to be a prime consideration. And tariffs have a lot of jobs ideally shifting back into the United States, but that does not mean that we don't still have a tremendous amount of US staffing need to help clients find nearshore opportunities for certain back office, for certain technology and development work. And having a tool that can give you visibility into, is Costa Rica right or is Colombia better for these particular skills? Where's the greatest cost efficiency with the best supply? Those types of insights can be invaluable to a staffing company differentiating themselves and making a difference with their client.
Now, I know we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so you may not have the data just kind of on the top of your head, but we see a lot, obviously, with uh, advancements in AI, robotics, automation. Um, it seems like Optimus is probably one of the more advanced. I mean, I know
Mhm.
China's got theirs that they're using with deep search, but are there particular areas in the world that you're now starting to see that the talent is where, like, this is where the talent is for that type of future workforce?
I mean, I think that we're seeing it in a lot of different markets. I mean, you have the higher volume in India and China just because of the size of their population, the number of universities, and the number of people going down that path. But even in parts of Central and Eastern Europe, in the GCC, in the Middle East, we're seeing huge pockets now where those universities are developing curriculums. They're partnering with the government or with major employers in their markets to create not just the educational courses, but to create on job internship, real work examples that people can learn on the job while they're going through the training process. We don't have
Yes.
time to wait 10 years for people to come out and figure out how to do this. It's
No.
all about organic training and getting people when they're starting down the path now.
Yeah, you just gave a great advertisement for trade schools.
Well,
Robotic
Mike
robotic
Rowe's got a
trade
beat
schools,
on
you
it, but
know?
I agree with him.
What is that?
I said Mike Rowe's got a beat on it, but I agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly right because this kind of technology that is required now, you don't have time, like you say, 2 to 3 years. It needs to be a working internship, where you spend time out of the classroom. Yeah, you need to understand, but then you have to hands-on, prepare it.
I
So
don't
is
think
this a
employers.
dashboard? So is this a dashboard that you create for either the enterprise company that's looking to expand into different states or countries? What's the interface look like?
So the interface is depending on the query. When you log in, you're looking at the globe. We have 185 countries, and I have a touch screen, so you can just span around and select a country and dive right in. Or you can type in a query using our AI agents and say, who are the employers that are driving the bulk of hiring for AI developers in Latin America? And it's going to tell you in these countries, these are the top employers, and this is their hiring demand for those roles. Then you'll be able to look in each market and see this is the compensation, this is how we're forecasting it to shift in the next 3 and 6 months. And by the way, click here to get candidates if that's what you need to do next.
Okay, that's the piece that I want to understand is, so let's say you've kind of narrowed down the markets or countries where you think you need to be,
Mhm.
recruiting. You think you have found the spot where you want to go after your people. Since you're using all the different sources to identify people, what is that interface? What is it that allows the company to actually start recruiting and communicating with those people that they have found on your platform, or that you've identified on other platforms and they're just kind of seeing them through yours?
So we did a lot of diligence at the front end of building out the product to identify the right tools to integrate with. So the first AI recruitment module that we've integrated with is through Interview AI. So it is a virtual recruitment experience with an avatar that a candidate can engage with on the computer or on their smartphone and go through a consistent recruitment process for every candidate. Now, with a lot of AI sourcing tools, you're restricted to only being able to pull 500 candidates down over the course of a certain amount of time. Because we have so many resources on the back end, we're able to remove those limitations and allow clients to tap into the right number of candidates for them. So they don't need to look at every profile and decide I'm going to just send the note to these 12. They can say, "Oh, I'm going to send it to all 50. I'm going to send it to all 112," whatever the case may be, and they all get that invitation to interview. Now that goes through email. Not all of our contact data is email based. Some we only have phone numbers for. It depends on the industry, the person's choice, the market, and what information is available. So we are in the process of vetting the next phase, which is to add phone recruitment as well with AI recruitment agents there. Some of them are fantastic that I've seen.
Yeah, there's you brought us a few things up there that are kind of interesting to me personally because in marketing you have to have some kind of cold email. You have to have some kind of outreach, and you say you're doing some emailing. There's lots of programs out there. We've experimented with several. One of them that I've had pretty good success with is Lemlist.
Yep.
Another one is called Instantly. I don't know if you've heard of those.
Lemless, yes.
Um,
Instantly, I've seen not dove in too much, but
yeah, it's like they're just a competitor, but the thing that's interesting about doing the emailing is that you have to have a warm email address. So you can't just go out there and say, Raylene at, whatever company
mail.com,
name.
yeah.
Yeah. And then just think you're going to fire off emails. You're not going to, they're going to hit spam right away. So how are you getting around that issue with when you're emailing?
So it depends on the client's level of integration with our platform. So the interview, if they're using Interview AI and they're sending out those invitations to interview, they can integrate the interviewing with their vendor management system or applicant tracking system, and then it will be coming out straight from the recruiters. So it mirrors the user's
Oh, see,
emails
that's
at that
beautiful.
stage. The
That's what I wanted to hear. You've taken the front end, your solution, and now you're pushing the communication back through the ATS or CRM.
But full disclosure, and because I think it's important when we talk about how awesome and exciting AI is, I need to just confess and just point out that not all of our clients are ready for the AI interviewing module, right? They're super excited to be able to have the insights and the access to candidates, but there's hesitance that exists in the market, regardless of which country or industry I'm talking to. Not everyone is ready for a multitude of reasons. Legal is hesitant, HR is hesitant. So in that case, they actually just download those list of candidates and then upload them into their applicant tracking system directly.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's baby
It's
steps.
true though.
I know. Okay. But why do you think that I can go through my journey. I can understand the hesitancy that I had. What hasn't? What are you hearing? Why are they? What are they saying?
It, So I think part of the problem, and this is probably more specific to my target market of the small and the mid-sized businesses, some of the stuff that came out early was free or really cheap. And it was just to get to see the market with the excitement of this is what we can do with AI, avatars, and whatnot. And I think some organizations just jumped on too fast and without the right governance around it. So their experience was horrible. Either they didn't get the results or the outcomes they were looking for, or it became a scary mess, and that has made them hesitant for their experience. Now, in other cases, they're dabbling in 50 places already and they don't want to add any more until they get control of X. And in others, especially depending on the industry, it is legal or it's the personal bias
Yeah.
of the leadership team. It varies. And I think it's
Yeah.
just going to take time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There are hesitancies that exist for different industries. I know there's one for EV. People have, the charging hesitancy.
Yep.
They're afraid to, like, how far can I go? What if I run out of charge? So you have all these little things that are kind of in the back of your head. And when you do AI, it's like, what's it going to say on my behalf? Are we going to look stupid? That's kind of one of the fears is, can I trust it? Is it going to sound normal?
Yep. I've had philosophical conversations with some staffing leaders who say, well, we recruit nurses. Well, to me, I think if you're doing clinical hiring, the AI recruitment can be fantastic because they get the invitation, they can click it at their convenience, which may be after a 12-hour shift at 3 a.m, and the recruiter doesn't want to talk then, so that's the only way to reach them. But then philosophically, these staffing folks will say some of our candidates are older. They're going to not enjoy this. They're going to not like this. So they're taking their own biases and putting them on a portion of the candidates and saying it's not right for us for those reasons. So it
Yeah, it just comes out of your own head. I mean, you're taking whatever you think and you're just throwing it out on the marketplace. And I think the leaders that are smart about how they, and I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but this act, learn, adjust is a great approach to this. Start with a small segment, watch how it works. How much time is it saving you? Now, you mentioned Interview AI. So that's the virtual AI interviewing platform that you've got like a partnership with, that you're integrated with.
yes.
Tell me more about that. What does that look like?
So when someone gets an email, the email is customized to specifically pull the details from their professional or online profile, the information we have, and state why this job is a good match or a good next step for that candidate based on their profile. Then they have the option to click to interview now. So it's not to apply, it's to interview. And we're seeing a huge uptick in just responses on that option to interview because people are tired of hitting apply and not hearing anything back. So this is a chance to be seen, to be heard, to be screened. And it's got an expiration date. You don't want to just leave that invite to in the interview open forever. So maybe it's a 1 week or a 5 day thing, and then they click it at their convenience, and then they finish the interview, and it tracks a number of things. The recruiter prioritizes when he sets up the rec. How important is their attention to detail, their facial engagement versus their enunciation or vocabulary? Is it their communication skills or their technical knowledge?
Hmm.
So the tool is evaluating the candidate as they go through the process on all these different psychographic and career specific details that they
And
share.
that is the new, okay, what you just said there, that's like the newest twist to this AI interviewing tool. Because I remember years ago, I went through some stuff like that too. And you basically just had like an interview question would pop up and you answer it and then submit and then the next one and the next one. And it was literally just I think what all they ended up with was these video files. But I've discovered there's a whole new realm now. What'd you call it? The psychographic?
Yes.
So the AI now is trained to look for all these other subtle clues, things with your posture, your eyes, facial expressions. And now you get this whole new battery of information that, I mean, they even have this now on the VoIP phones. I don't know if you knew this, but like Ring Over and Ring Central, you can listen in to calls or have call transcripts sent to you, and it tells you like all this other extra information that's not in the transcript.
Yep.
I mean, it's like that's what you're talking about, all this other stuff.
Even some of those note takers, the AI note takers on our virtual meeting sites now, I mean, some of them will not only transcribe, but say recommended next steps based on the conversation that it heard. It's brilliant. For us, I'll use the example of we were just talking and I had to respond to a text because it was my son and he needed something. It would have dinged me for that because I wasn't fully attentive to the conversation. Now, it doesn't rank or deselect candidates, and I think that's important. And it's part of why we chose Interview AI because there are a lot of tools out there who've come under some negative or conflicting attention because they were selecting or deselecting candidates or ranking
Right.
them in such a way. In this case,
You've opened up a whole new problem with EEOC and legal. You just want something that's neutral.
yeah, so for
They don't.
us, the recruiter says these are the questions and these are the things that we're looking for. So then it will take, say, we've sent the invite to 100 and say 75 completed the interview because not everyone does. So say 75 did, and these 25, they met all five of your criteria, and they mentioned these six key phrases you were looking for. So they are at the top because they did those things. We're not saying you can't look at everyone. The next 25 only got four of those criteria, but they also mentioned these things. So you get all of the transcripts, you get all of the
Hmm.
video recordings, and you get all of the notes. They're just saying, look, these guys hit all those marks. These guys hit 4 out of 5. These guys hit 80%. And then from there, if a recruiter, say, has a follow up call with the client and the client talks about, hadn't mentioned before, but all of a sudden mentions, we're thinking of moving off of Salesforce and going to this new CRM. If anyone had any experience
Oh wow!
with
Just
that migration,
bam.
and now you can keyword search and pull up, no matter how much they.
That's
So it's not.
that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, and I could see too where I've got like sometimes I'll read like a legal pronouncement, or maybe there's a bill or something going through, like on a personal note, like
Yep.
there's a bill going through the House or the Senate at the state level. Well, it takes a long time to kind of go through that. You can just rip that, throw it in an AI, transcriber, and it'll summarize, kind of give you the high points. Having all that data at your fingertips, it gives you a lot of you can get real creative with how you want to try to sort and match and vet. It kind of takes it to a whole new level, I think. One, like someone who's really good at this, you begin to like see this as a tool, not, hey, I'm boxed in, but
Hmm.
no, 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 no. You've got all these other things that you can now put into your own creative, kind of genius way
Well,
of sourcing.
I think you're right, and I also think it's funny you say that. The tech is changing so fast that the people using it need to constantly reevaluate what they can get out of it because not everyone uses it for the same things. But I remember years ago, if you were using software, they might do 3 or 4 product releases a year. I mean, look at how often we get updates on our iPhones now, right? With the iOS updates. With AI, it's even faster than that. I mean, we're every month releasing new features or integrating new data or updating the AI agents to be more flexible or more accommodating to different language behaviors and different cultures, right? So it's a constant evolution, and that's not how tech used to evolve.
Yeah, there was a much slower process, and now with AI that's involved in it, it's actually able to update, I imagine, much quicker.
Yes.
I mean, God, there is just so much here to do. This is exciting. This is exciting. I mean, I feel like this is a yet another great, I know you're a subset of HR tech, but another great tool. So obviously you're going after the, small, mid-sized staffing companies, but also enterprise companies, corporations, correct?
And that often is more of a consulting play because they don't necessarily have the individual analyst that would be dedicated to using this data and tools, but it goes both ways.
I see. So you would be you would bring your expertise to the company
Yes.
for a period of time through whatever workforce
They bring a project like that location strategy where we
project.
dedicate analysts to it and they deliver the results. Can they have access to the tool? Sure. Can they do the analysis and get to where they need to go? Probably not,
Maybe,
So
maybe
in
not.
those cases, we have conversations and decide the right path.
That's great.
But I'll tell you one
So
thing. I was going to tell you one exciting thing that I love, and that is how we benefit from the tool ourselves. So we can brainstorm. You and I, we could talk all day, and we have, right? So we could talk all day about where the industry is going and what the industry needs next. But we only know from our own purviews. Our tool, so with Talent Edge AI, it's tracking all of the users and what they're querying, what they're looking for, how often they're looking for this, when they ask for something we don't have. And then our tool tracks and analyzes that and makes recommendations. Everyone's spending more time here. We might want to increase the visualization. We would recommend adding this data set. We've identified these data sets. It's helping us to determine where to go next based on the behavior. It's giving us voice of the customer without the customer having to talk.
right. And then you can turn around and see, okay, this particular skill set is being searched for heavily.
Yep,
So maybe we really should be doing more of our own business development to these search firms, these staffing companies that are placing these heavily queried terms because we
exactly.
know there's a big need for it. That is awesome. That is awesome. I am so glad you and I finally had a chance to look a little bit more under the cover. I know we got
Yeah.
a little granular, folks, but I couldn't help myself. Raylene's got a pretty damn cool tool, and I can't help but wanting to look at it a little bit more. So, what's the best way for people to reach out and chat with you? Maybe do a demo and find out more about what it can do for them.
Sales at talentedgeai.com is the easiest way to get connected with a sales representative and to schedule a demo. Or you can simply go to talentedgeai.com and you can actually just schedule a demo right off of the site.
Nice, nice. And I'll put the links down in the show notes as well.
Wonderful.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I tell you, I honestly, I could have just kept going and going and going. But alas, people's drive has probably come to an end. They're at the grocery store now. They have to say goodbye to Tony and Raylene.
Till next time.
Yes, exactly. Well, listen, like I said, we've started, like, half the people on here want to come back because we realize there's so much more for us to talk about. So the next time we're going to get a chance to see your actual studio or your office, not,
That would be great.
wherever they've been doing all these wonderful upgrades. Raylene, great seeing you again today.
You too, Tony. Appreciate the time.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you soon.